Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we are looking at the Bible diet. So, welcome, fam. How's everyone doing? I currently have someone more look into the Bible diet. I've made a couple of videos on the Bible diet, which you should see on the channel. If you haven't watched them already, you should go and check them out. But right now, I wanted to do a series on the Bible diet, probably in two parts. And in the two parts, we're looking at just going a bit more in depth in terms of our nutrition, understanding what God actually intended for us in terms of our health, in terms of the food that we're supposed to eat. And this is for our health. It's not about salvation. It's not about, committing sin or not committing sin, but it's about being objective about what food is the best for. And today we're actually going to be look at some of the scriptures in the Bible. And then after we look at the scriptures, we'll also look at just some of the foods, actually list them down to see how do they actually benefit our health. And when we actually understand how they benefit our health, our own bodies as we speak in the 21st century, that will give us a firm understanding and actually like scientific evidence that what God intended was for the best for human health. So, one of the things that we currently face in our society today is that food is modified. It's engineered. We have different companies like Monsanto that makes genetically modified seeds for farmers so that the yield is higher. And how agriculture is supposed to be done is that, when you plant, you farm the same plants seeds that you can reuse and plant again. A continuous loop. But then these days you find that those seeds don't work that way anymore. So they don't actually allow you to reproduce once you've harvested the crop. So as we look into this, we actually want to see from the start, from the beginning. So we're going to start from Genesis right now as I pop this open here. So we're going to start from Genesis 1 in the beginning. And I'm going to share my screen with you. So in the beginning, we're going to look specifically at verse 29 and 30. So this was after creation, after God had created the earth and had already ascribed that the earth will be taken care of by Adam. So 29 says, then God, this is Genesis 1, verse 29. Then God said, I give you every seed bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food, and to all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds in the sky, and all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has breath of life in it. I give every green plant for food. And it was so. So, this is the intention for God, like right in the beginning in the Garden of Eden, to give us plants, all the tree bearing seeds for us to eat and fruit. So, this is where you have like people that say, okay, humans are meant to be vegetarian and we're not supposed to eat meat. And that is true if you're looking at it from these verses. And as you continue to read in Genesis, you see that things change. And there is post flood where God now made after the flood. And that leads us to Genesis 9. And we're going to be looking at Genesis 9, and that is 3, verse 3. So this was God's covenant with Noah. We'll read this one from the start. So then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth. The fear, the fear and dread of the earth, and on all birds in the sky, on every creature that moves along the ground, and all the fish in the sea, they are given into your hands. Everything that lives and moves about will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, I now give you everything. But you must not eat meat that has its life, and for accounting for every animal, and from each human being too. I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being. Whosoever sheds human blood by humans shall their blood be shed. For in the image of God has God made mankind. As for you, be fruitful and increase in number, multiply on the earth and increase upon it. So this again goes to show us that after the flood, obviously there was destruction, things were um, flooded, and God made more provision for mankind and made this covenant with Noah and told us that we could eat animals. And one of the things, the key central things when we're looking at meat as a whole and just how God designed everything is that when it comes to things like blood, God cares a lot about blood. So he also mentioned, because that is the life force, that is the life force, that is the light that God has instilled and put in us. This is the blood, it comes from the blood. And one of the things that he's already pointed out is that you do not eat any meat that has its lifeblood in it. So that's why it's important the way that you want to figure out, like, the best ways to say this on YouTube without them pinging this video. But it's the best way that unalive animals is also humane and in the body, right? Because this is what God has intended. And blood, it doesn't matter who it is, like even any person, doesn't matter who you are. That blood means something to God. And as he said, like for every animal, like he still is going to take an account. And this is one of the things that, a lot of people talk about how the sacrificial system in the Old Testament, God also was hearing the cries of these animals. He's saying, like, okay, these humans are committing so much sin. And by committing so much sin, there would be a lot of them were being killed to atone for the sins. So God said, okay, you heard the cries of the animals as well, and said, okay, so Christ himself also came and died to save these animals from continuous. That is the relationship that God has in terms of us, humanity, animals, and life force, blood. So we have to really put this into account that some of these things are being talked about in the Bible. We shouldn't just take them at face value because they mean a lot. So relationships to animals, it's not to say, when you're eating them, like be inhumane, but you have to be humane about it still. Even when you say, okay, I'm going to eat this meat, how it's taken care of, how it's unalived also matters to God. So it's not about being reckless to say, okay, we don't relate to these animals in the same way that we relate to other human beings, but God still cares. So that is still the relationship that we have to still have with animals, to respect them because God still cares for them. So when we're talking about eating meat, there's also, like, God said that, okay, you can eat, and some that he set boundaries on to say, okay, like when you're eating certain foods, you can eat different animals. Like when he talked about like the scavengers in the ocean, in the sea, like the shellfish, the shrimp, and also like the pigs, the vultures, the wine. So moving on, looking at those verses, we're going to look at this is in Leviticus. This was Leviticus. Okay, let's see. Leviticus 11. Okay, so this was the clean. The debates sometimes start in terms of like, okay, everything was made clean, as you see in Peter, right, and in Acts, and this was Peter talking to Cornelius, and you have the Lord said to Moses, this is Leviticus 11. This is the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, say to the Israelites, of all the animals that live on land, these are the ones you may eat. You may eat any animal that has a divided hoof and that chews the cud. There are some that only chew the cud or only have a divided hoof, but you must not eat them. The camel, though it chews the cud, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is ceremonially unclean for you. The hyrax, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is unclean for you. The rabbit, though it chews the cud, it does not have a divided hoof. It is unclean for you. And the pig, though it has a divided hoof, does not chew the cud. It is unclean for you. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. Of all the creatures living in the water, of the seas and the streams, you may eat any that have fins and scales. But all creatures in the seas or streams that do not have fins and scales, whether among all the swarming things, or among all the other living creatures in the water, you are to regard as unclean. And since you are to regard them as unclean, you must not eat their meat. You must regard their carcasses as unclean. Anything living in the water that does not have fins and scales is to be regarded as unclean by you. These are the birds you are to regard as unclean and not eat because they are unclean: the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, any kind of black kite, any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screech owl, the gull, and any kind of hawk, the little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the stork, any kind of heron, and hoopoe, and the bat. All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. They are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat, those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of those you may eat any kind of locust, catadid, I don't know how to say that, crickets, or grasshopper, excuse me, grasshopper. But all other flying insects that have 4 legs you are to regard as unclean. You will make yourselves unclean by these. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean till evening. Whoever picks up one of their carcasses must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Every animal that does not have a divided hoof or does not chew the cud is unclean for you. Whoever touches the carcass of any of them will be unclean. Of all the animals that walk on all fours, those that walk on their paws are unclean for you. Whoever touches their carcass will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up their carcass must wash their hands, must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. These animals are unclean for you. Of all the animals that move along the ground, these are unclean for you: the weasel, the rat, any kind of great lizard, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the wool lizard, the skink, and the chameleon. Of all these, of all that move along the ground, these are unclean for you. Whoever touches them, when they are dead, will be unclean till evening. When one of them dies and falls on something, that article, whatever it whatever its use, will be unclean. Whether it is made of wood, cloth, hide, or sackcloth, put it in the water. Put it in water, it will be unclean till evening. Then it will be clean. If one of them falls into a clay pot, everything in it will be unclean. But you must break the pot. Any food you are allowed to eat that has come into contact with water from any such pot is unclean, and any liquid that is drunk from such a pot is unclean. Anything that one of these carcasses falls on becomes unclean. An oven or cooking pot must be broken up. They are unclean, and you are to regard them as unclean. A spring, however, or a cistern for collecting water remains clean. But anyone who touches one of these carcasses is unclean. If a carcass falls on any seeds that are that are to be planted, they remain clean. But if water has been put on the seed and a carcass falls on it, it is unclean for you. If the animal that you allowed to eat dies, anyone who touches the carcass will be unclean till evening. Anyone who eats some of its carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up the carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Every creature that moves along the ground is to be regarded as unclean. It is not to be eaten. You are not to eat any creature that moves along the ground, whether it moves on its belly or walks on all fours or on many feet. It is unclean. Do not defile yourselves by any of these creatures. Do not make yourselves unclean by means of them, or be made unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourselves and be holy, because I am holy. Do not make yourselves unclean by any creature that moves along the ground. I am the Lord, who brought you up out of Egypt to be your God. Therefore, be holy, because I am holy. These are the regulations concerning animals, birds, every living thing that moves in the water, every creature that moves along the ground. You must distinguish between the unclean and the clean, the unclean and the unclean, between living creatures that may be eaten and those that may not be eaten. Okay, that was a long chapter. We read the full thing, and I think it's good to read that chapter because I think a lot of times when we read the Bible and in translation from one language to another language, these decrees and commands from God, as you read them, it also indicates you can get the sense that He's also instructing them on how to keep themselves healthy. So it wasn't just about like salvation, but it was like, okay, preventing diseases because some of them, because God already knew what these animals are capable of. They could make the Israelites sick because they're also growing in population. So when these animals, when they when they also like go out and find food, people might just eat animals that are eating other animals, or maybe those animals eat human carcasses as well. So, for example, like pigs. So these are the things to really put into perspective that how how these animals were distinguished was for our own benefit and for our own health. And being able to understand the wisdom behind this is what really allows us to live a life that is more aligned to what God intended for us and allows us to steward our bodies closer to what God intended. Because what we've done is that we've advanced, right, using science and say, like, okay, well, some of these issues, let's say, for example, like pigs, people eat pork, right? And they also say, okay, like pigs, yeah, sure, they can be raised on a farm. They're not eating human carcasses or just going out roaming in the wild. And we know how to remove the tapeworms in the pigs. And it's also because we've advanced, we justify ourselves to say we do that. And we also then say that we have medications that can kill these tapeworms. And we know, okay, if we cook it at this certain level, then, the disease or the tapeworms will not survive. And those different arguments on how to do all of that, like, which is true, which is fair. But us coming up with these solutions, I think, in my own opinion, is because the world has also gone through drought, famine, and people have been forced to sort of find different ways to get through all of this. And the availability of some animals might not be as available in some areas, and some die off and they need to supplement, and the population is growing. Like a lot of things, a lot of history has changed over time. But as we look at where the world is, if we're reflecting back on the changes that have happened, and we actually look at where the world is right now, we tend to also forget that what's now happening for us is that we've now introduced new problems for ourselves in this entire world, because we're now just focused on, okay, production, 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 and the production that we're trying to produce is removing some of the nutrients from the food that we're eating, and we're trying to overproduce. And I think there's the whole issue where people are saying like, okay, like there's a there's probably like the two sides where people are saying, some of the people like in different organizations are saying like the planet is overpopulated, and they make it seem like that is the problem. But the problem is we've gone so far from what God had intended. Our job has always been to work the land, to work and move, to be physically active. And because we haven't done that and we haven't been doing that, it's now left us in a place where we're now confused as to, okay, what food do we eat? How do I work out? How do I lose weight? How do I gain weight? Because we've lost touch. We've lost touch. So what we want to do is, continuously look as well into what God is saying, like in terms of our own our own food that we eat, like how we're supposed to interact with food. So now looking at what we just covered right there in Leviticus, we're going to look at Proverbs. This is Proverbs 20, verse 21. Do not join those who drink too much wine or gorge themselves on meat, for drunkards and gluttons become poor, and drowsiness clothes them in rags. So this is one of the things that we also have to really understand, is that when we're interacting with food or a relationship with food, we're actually meant to have we're supposed to actually have moderation when it comes to eating. And in moderation, it means that we're also able to manage how much we eat and manage our weight. So this is a good warning, as we see already, like within the Bible. It's like, okay, we're supposed to do things in moderation, because if we're actually able to heed this warning, we can actually see that, okay, yeah, you know what? We we can actually manage our health and our weight just by following this, because this is a warning, a proverb by Solomon, by King Solomon, who had an abundance, who had an abundance. And this is what he said: do not join those who drink too much wine or gorge themselves on meat, for drunkards and gluttons become poor, and drowsiness clothes them in rags. I got someone at the door right now. Let's see. Just give me a second. Let me just go check who's there. Just give me. Give me a second, fam. Looks like My frames are dropping for the internet. Let's see. Okay, I think it should be good. I think we're good, right? Are we back? Are you back? Okay, I think we're good. The internet was dropping here, but I think we, okay. Let's see, we're back. Are we back? See. Okay. I don't know what happened there. Okay, okay, we just had a technical difficulty right there. I had someone knocking at the door, and yeah, because I had someone knocking on the door, and the internet just dropped. Just had a technical difficulty right there. Okay, perfect. Okay, I think we're back online. Wow. I don't know what was going on right there, but okay, so we should be back now. Now we're back fully online. The stream is back. Okay, no frames are dropping. Okay, so that's a good thing. Okay, so let's see, where were we? Where were we? Yeah, so as I was saying, like looking at this verse is this is Solomon, right? Like a king with so much abundance, and he was giving advice to say, do not join those who drink too much wine or gorge themselves on meat, for drunkards and gluttons become poor, and drowsiness clothes them in rags. So this is one of the things when we're talking about like the Bible diet. It's not simply just finding the foods to eat, but it's understanding what sort of relationship did God intend for us to have with food and for us to have the best lives possible, whether it's health, whether it's like how we live in society, how we live with others. And Solomon also goes on in Proverbs 25, where he's also saying, if you find honey, eat just enough, too much of it, and you will vomit. Again, this is another verse that is showing us that food is good for us. It's meant to help us, but we need to eat just enough. Otherwise, there's a point when something good, when we overdo it, it hurts us. So it's the same thing with food, anything that we put inside our bodies. We just need to do it enough. And anything beyond that is likely going to hurt us. And for some other people, it might be gaining weight, being overweight, and then hypertension begins, and diabetes, or what else could be there? I don't know what else could be there, like any other cancers. And I don't want to scare you, but anything can then turn into something bad even though like the intention was good, right? So we want to do it in moderation. This is one of the key things that we have to understand when we're talking about the Bible diet. It's like it doesn't neglect the idea of eating in moderation. So we just have to. Okay. And now looking at that, I think for now, when we look at the Bible diet in terms of like what God intended, I think we've covered some things that are very critical because excess, I understanding what God intended, understanding the relationship that God wants us to have with our food, is important. It is something that we can't just push to the side and say, oh no, like because something is a whole food, something is natural, then we still overindulge, right? We've talked about the importance of eating whole foods. Still important, still very important. But the next part, the next portion, is really for us to understand that we need to eat food in moderation. That is why we also covered the video the past couple of days on how to use MyFitnessPal, how to track your meals, how to create a meal plan, how to create how to design and create a meal plan, because that now allows you to practice, to put everything into practice. This is where we're going back, right? So it's like, okay, because a lot of times people get confused. They're like, okay, what do you mean moderation? What is moderation? Because moderation for each person is also different based on their needs. So again, if you haven't watched the other videos on how to use MyFitnessPal, how to track your food, how to create custom meal plans, you need to go back and watch those videos. But right now, as we talk about this, we're looking and focusing on what God actually intended for us. Because if we just take a second right now, because this is the part that is most important, because a lot of people, and it's very controversial, a lot of people now, they say, I don't need the Bible diet because it's it doesn't work anymore. All the food was made clean. I can eat pork. The quality of food is different. Pork, the quality of pork is not that great when you compare it to like chicken, fish, cattle, like cows. So you really have to consider this. I know it might taste good, like I'm not denying, right? If you're talking about like taste, like yeah, sure you can, grill it, you can put some spices, you've got some fat, and we know that fat makes food taste great. But the inherent nature of pigs, we cannot take that away because they were created for a purpose. Because if we're to say, okay, without our own intervention as human beings to like farm these pigs and try and make them food and commercialize them, if we just leave them in the wild, they'll be wild animals. They would have like tasks. They would be eating anything. They'll be cleaning the environment. So we've tried to intervene so much in the environment that we've thrown things out of order by our own good. Because if you come back again to the story of creation, when God created the earth, things were in chaos. It's not that he created everything right from the scratch, but things were already in chaos everywhere. Read Genesis, right? Because everything was in chaos. It means that something had happened, and Satan was already here by then, right? And so because everything was in chaos, that's what we need to understand, that what God wants for us is to have order in our lives, and following how he set everything into course, right? Because it says in the beginning, oh, let's go back. Yeah. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. God saw that light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day, right? So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So he did create them. So yeah, so he did create them. Let's come back on that. But the earth and the formless, because I think there's a part, the separation, because between one and two, the formless and empty darkness was all over the surface of the deep, because the darkness, when you read, when you go in scripture, like beyond Genesis as well, but if you go in further scripture, because there's a timeline right here between here, right, the fall of Lucifer from heaven. So if you do more reading on scriptures, you'll find that when now God now came onto the earth and said, okay, now I'm separating everything, putting things into order, there was darkness already, and Lucifer had fallen from from his position in heaven. So, I mean, this is more theological, but we want to keep it to Bible diet. But the point that I'm making is that everything that God intends for us is to put things in order, not to be chaotic, and not to change how He sets things in motion from the beginning. So, this is something that's important for us to understand, that this is what God wanted for us, not something that we say, okay, McDonald's is, the best food for us. Like, what is McDonald's? Come on, right? Because it's fast food. Okay, it's quick. Okay, convenience. Because we fall into the trap of convenience in this modern day. We're like, okay, this food is fast. This food is quick. And companies know, corporations know that. So they make the food taste good, they make it come fast, and they've allowed us to fall into this trap of convenience. So we have to pay attention to that, because the process of hunting or getting your own food is what allows us to have a good relationship and understand the food that we eat and have appreciation of the food that we eat, because it gives us that connection. Instead of just like going into the store and just grabbing your food and just walking out, or just ordering the food to your home and just putting it on the pan or stove and oven. But the idea behind this is that we have to be in tune with our food. We have to develop a good relationship with our food, right? So now, when we look at the Bible diet, the other thing that we're going to look at now is really looking at, okay, what did God intend for us? What were we supposed to eat? You're like, Nate, okay, this sounds great, but what is a Bible diet? Like, what do I eat? Where do I start? Right. So this is where you start. So this is a 7-day Bible diet meal plan. This is a sample with some of the foods, and with a list, and with different meals that you can have for 7 days to try it out, to see if it tastes great. The options, as you can tell, like we've got baked salmon, roasted sweet potatoes, steamed broccoli, because these are whole foods, and this is fish. Lentil soup, quinoa bowl with roasted veggies, kale with grilled turkey, vegetable stew with lentils, stuffed bell peppers with turkey and quinoa, grilled trout with zucchini noodles, and also snacks. And then you can have your dressings, like your olive oil, your lemon olive oil dressing. And you also can have your devotional and pray about your food, your diet, going back to the scriptures to really dig deeper into scripture. And because, when we look at this, we can look at Daniel fast. That's another part that we can look at. It's like, okay, but what was Esther fast? Esther's fast. There's Daniel's fast. All the different characters in the Bible had a certain relationship with food. And that relationship also revealed their relationship with God. When they let up some food, they're like, no, I'm not going to eat this because I want to commune with God. I want to be closer to God. And they want to sharpen their spirit. That was now them fasting for going, because Daniel really went back to like what God had intended. So these are things to think about, and just for us to really reflect on in terms of our diet. So let's say, for example, like if we're looking at the Bible diet, like, okay, day one, what are you doing? So, like, let's say, for example, you have overnight oats, almond milk, topped with fresh blueberries, flax seeds, and honey. Day two, sorry, a snack, you can have a handful of raw almonds with an apple, grilled chicken, salad, mixed greens, cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, and olive oil dressing. Dinner, you can have baked salmon with roasted sweet potatoes and steamed broccoli, right? So now you're looking at the Bible diet with all the meals laid out for you. And these are meals that you can try at home, very affordable. And you can just try to see, okay, do I like this? Does this taste great? And again, like, this is so important. It's all done for you. And some of these we already have these laid out, right? Like the shopping meal and sorry, the shopping list. Say it's shopping meal. So you have your veggies, you have your protein, you have your grains, you have your fruits. And one of the things that I wanted to add, actually, I found more that I wanted to add. Like I forgot like one very distinct one, like pomegranates. That was one of them that I wanted to add, which was very distinct. It's been on my mind since that I'm just still remembering. I still remember that it was supposed to be on there. And then you have all of these, right? Like these are all foods that you can have, including your Bible diet. So these are all foods that are whole foods that we can include in our diet. And yeah, so and then with this, like there's recipes, like obviously with the plan. So this would be like an example of like the baked salmon with roasted sweet potatoes, steamed broccoli. So this is what you'd essentially do in terms of like making this, right? So you'd have your salmon, your one large sweet potato cubed, 2 cups broccoli, florets, 2 tablespoon olive oil, excuse me, one garlic powder, one paprika, teaspoons salt and pepper to taste, right? And you'd also do the same thing with your lentil soup. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about the Bible diet. So you can actually have something that tastes good and tastes great, and it doesn't have to be boring because it's from ancient times, but we can actually make it taste super good. So this is very important for us to keep in mind that the Bible diet is something that can actually help benefit to nourish and to heal our bodies at the end of the day. Tomorrow we're going to look at the shopping list, and we'll look at some of these foods, like the ones mentioned directly within the Bible, to see, okay, what are the benefits? Which foods can actually heal our bodies? Which foods can actually help restore vitality into our bodies? And for us to steward our bodies properly and to keep worshiping God the way that we're meant to, and really steward the temple of the Holy Spirit. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be living a full life, full of energy. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But right now, the world has tried to throw everything into chaos, out of sync. So now we have to really come back. We have to come back to it. We don't want to lose some of this. Because if you're to be honest, if we're to look at some of this stuff, and if you're to look at how the world was back in the day, if you if you're lucky, right? I'm in an apartment right now. I don't have any land to farm. I don't have any space to keep any animals, any chickens or any goats. I don't have that. But this is what the world has made us believe that you need. Oh yeah, you need to move to the cities. You need to move and have this apartment or have this house, but you don't have any space to take care of yourself, to be self-sufficient. Because right now, wherever you are, you need to recognize that everything that's going in the world right now, the fights and the global disruption with the oil, it's revealing how much we've depended on these corporations or this technology or that company or that way of living. Because yeah, sure, we're going to get disrupted, but it's a wake up call to realize what God intended for us was for us to be self-sufficient, to live in harmony with nature, to live in harmony with animals, to work the land so that everything feeds into everything. Like when you plant your seeds, the ones that you don't turn into food, but you turn them into seed for the next season, you can do that. I mean, you used to be able to do that, but if you have land, you can do that. You can farm. You can keep your animals. Your animals, you feed them grain, you feed them some grass, you have some pasture. They give you manure. You use that manure to revitalize your soil and for your feed and put more nutrients back into the soil, into the land. It's like taking from the land and giving back to the land. That is what God wanted for us. And I tell you, that is the one way of life that is sustainable, that will allow us to live a life that we're not dependent and we can be healthier. We can steward ourselves, steward the land, steward the animals in the way that will bring us fulfillment, bring us joy, health, and proper, true worship. So everything that we do, because the worship is not just one form of worship, it's not just okay in church, but it's about how we lead our lives, how we steward our lives. That is a worship. How do you worship and steward your body each day? That is my challenge to you. Like, really think about where are you going to feel the most pain with everything that's going on in the world right now? What are you depending on? What are you depending on? Do you really think that your whole life should be dependent on maybe medication to treat whatever condition that you have? Maybe that condition started because you're eating the wrong food. When it comes to your diet, your nutrition, we really have to take control of this because now there's a push for things like Ozempic, for like these GLP-1 medications. We have to really think about this as a society, as a group. I'm challenging you, and I'll always challenge you to really think about what you're doing, your decisions, your health, stewarding your body. I challenge you to really reflect, write something down, and see, okay, where am I depending? What am I depending on for my health? Are you following what God intended? Is that what you're doing? Or are you dependent on the convenience, the comfort, the ease of just getting everything to you fast, quick, just like that? Boom. Comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. And I don't think a lot of people are talking about that cost. Because as I said yesterday again, it's like, with the GLP-1 drugs and the Ozempic, Wegovy, all of these drugs, these are new drugs, including peptides. Peptides is another one that I don't talk about because now they have peptides that can tan your skin, that can do different functions because our bodies are made up of, I mean, different molecules that interact with each other and different peptides, like your proteins, are different. You have amino acids, you have peptides, the smaller blocks that make up amino acids. And I remember like doing biology, like this takes me back to like biology in high school. But these are the things that we and one of the things that I've always been intuitively good at is understanding biology. Like I didn't necessarily need to like study everything like, books and stuff, but it's just stuff that I understood because I'm quite in tune with a lot of biology and I just everything. So with that, because something is synthetic, this is the one thing that I try to emphasize on is synthetics, anything that is coming out from outside your body, especially if it's like made in a lab. I also did chemistry, especially if it's made in a lab. And I've also worked with insurance companies. And what and then there's like pharmaceutical companies. Pharmaceutical companies are good at what they do in terms of pushing product. They're good at pushing product, marketing, super good at it. Sometimes insurance companies don't like that because it means they have to pay claims. And from an insurer's perspective, they see that. They're like, nah, like, but you're not following some of these regulations. Like, why are these people taking these drugs when you don't need this drug? You see that. So there's this game that happens, right? Because some of these pharmaceutical companies try to push the drugs because they know, like, okay, the person's not paying. So the incentive is there for this person because they're just getting upside, just claim, 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 claim. So it's important to understand the incentives that are there, that these pharmaceutical companies are damn good at marketing and they know how to move the media to push their product. They're good at it. That's one thing you should realize. So some of the people that you see that promote this stuff, that tell you like, okay, they're influencers and stuff, some of them could be paid. Some of them maybe have shares in these companies. They have stocks. Maybe they're not paid directly, but maybe they have shares and stocks. So so always think about that. Because there's so many cases when you look back in history where you see like, okay, big pharma, and remember it's not just big pharma too, like they also like smaller pharmaceutical companies that are coming out of, the woodworks. But the system, the part that they don't realize is that the system is already created. Because if you're going to be a player, there's certain rules that you have to sort of follow. So it becomes way, 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 way harder to get away from the same big pharma model. And maybe the big farmers will come and buy out the small farmers, pharmaceutical companies, essentially. So you have to think about some of these things, how the world actually works. That's what you need to understand before you go and buy their product. Understand, like, okay, what is going on in the background? How do these companies interact with each other? Who's incentivized to do what? So really think about this stuff. Really think about this stuff. Because God, there's no way you can tell me or convince me that God said, okay, I'm going to give you a Ozempic so that you can lose weight. Well, all the people in the Bible are taking like GLP-1s, right? Because when you look at it from a faith angle, all right, you find there's the part where you had the book of Enoch, if you've read it, but you find that there were these fallen angels that came with this knowledge, the wisdom that they wanted to give mankind. And some of it's working metal, weaponry, essentially. That's what it is. And some of it is the chemistry that we say, okay, this is chemistry, some of these medications and what they do. So it's always good to understand that some of these medications or these drugs, I'm giving you a faith angle because it's also like I've been in a lab, in a chemistry lab, like I've done different projects and different experiments, and I've seen it, and I've seen how it works. I've seen how you write your reports, your lab reports. And some people, sometimes to get good marks, there's incentives, like within sciences and stuff. Like there's incentives, like people plagiarize, people have to say things that they know will get them the result of the mark, even though it's not factual, right? So these things exist. So it's not good to just take everything at face value. So always think about, okay, where is my health? Am I doing what's best for my health? Am I trying to take synthetics? Am I trying to take some medications to manage my health? And why am I doing it? Like, does it mean that all the drugs are bad? I'm not saying do not take medication if you need to take medication. If your doctor says, okay, take medication, this is not medical advice, by the way. This is entertainment and for information purposes only. Right? Let me put my disclaimer right here as we are speaking about this. This is for entertainment and informational purposes only. Let's go with this as I'm speaking about this stuff, right? So this is this is good for us to understand. This is entertainment and informational purposes only as I'm talking to you about this. But it's always good for you to understand some of these concepts or these things that happen in the background, right? This is, I'm not trying to bash anyone to say someone is bad, inherently bad, but I'm trying to just explain to you that before you go on and try some of these things, because most of these drugs, right, like the Ozempic, Wegovy, I think there was another one like Retitude. I think it was Retra something. And so I think that's a peptide or something. Retra. What's Retra? I saw this. There was Reta. Was it Reta? Yeah, I think it was Reta. Was it Reta? Retitude. Reta peptide. Okay. Reta Trutride. I don't know what. I don't know how to say that. Retrotride. 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 Okay, I'll show you what it is. Okay, this one. This is the one. So this is like a form of peptide that people are taking right now. So these are the things that people are taking. I'm not saying like go and take these, but these are the things that they're trying to promote. And yeah, I'm just saying like if you're hearing a lot about this stuff, it's going viral because people are promoting it. Don't do it. Please don't do it. Send me a message. Send me a message, please. Right? And we can talk about it. I can probably help you without having to go down this path. So just send me a message and let's talk about it first before you go down the rabbit hole of like trying to figure out like peptides and different different things. Because I remember there was a time in this was in I think 2017, 2018. Psalms were the thing. Psalms. So these mimic steroids. And now it's coming out, okay, they're totally bad for you. There's something better. You see what I mean? Like now there's something better. At the time it was like, okay, you're not taking steroids, you're taking Psalms. I was like, okay, cool. No steroids, okay, Psalms, and you still considered natural. And then I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do this. Right. And then I said I'm not gonna do this. And then I just stopped. I just, didn't think about it too much. And then now you're hearing about peptides, right? You're hearing Ozempic for like weight loss and stuff. And they're like, okay, it's the next new thing. So there's always something new. There's always something that's going to come up and they'll say, okay, it's good for you. And they'll try and sell you on it. So just think about it. Like, talk to your doctor, figure out the plan, the best plan. Ask your doctor, like, not to give you the medication directly, but to also explain the side effects. And most likely they'll tell you, okay, right now there's no side effects or whatnot, but it's also because there's not enough data. These things are still technically in trials. It's still a trial period. So if you're okay with being a guinea pig, it's up to you. But again, if you're really concerned about your health, if you're really concerned about your health, let's talk about it first. Let's talk about it first. And yeah, we can really discuss because, oh, yeah, a lot of people, I think they're falling for it. And I was hoping more people would be talking about slowing down, not pushing this. But it kind of gives you an idea why, people say like, okay, drug dealers make a lot of money because, I mean, look at what's going on. So, anyway, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. We'll look at the full list of the Bible diet tomorrow. We'll look at the verses where the foods that are mentioned in the Bible are coming from. And we'll also look at what are those benefits that we can get from these foods. What foods can actually heal our bodies from the inside, and what foods will nourish us to have endless energy that can allow us to continuously steward our bodies and serve God. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching and joining me. Anyone that's dropped in, thank you and I appreciate you. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.